Okay, looks like we've got pretty much everybody. There may be a few that are still coming on, but I don't want to hold everybody else up. We are going to record this first, everybody. Dennis Smeltzer with TSANet. I think most of you know me and probably have spoken with me. I've got Paul Esch with me and Stephanie. They're all lurking in the background here to make sure I don't mess up on anything. But thanks for coming into this webinar. We want to talk quickly about the fall release coming up, and I did not have this is one of the bullet points on the slides, but we expect probably the first or the second week of October is when we're going to release this. And one thing a little bit unique about this particular release as opposed to others is where we don't have as many features that are being changed and coming out. What we do have, I think you'll find to be pretty substantial on, especially one of them, on this new user registration process that we're going to talk about a little bit. We're going to cover all of these, go through them, and I'm not going to actually even go into a demo part of the member web, but it is available on the beta site right now. If you want to go and log in, it's community.beta.tsanet.org, and you'll be able to go in and experience what these changes are, as these are already out on the beta site if you want to take a look at them. So what we'll cover is, again, on the member web, we've got this new announcements feature that I think you're gonna like, although it's primarily based where we're actually pushing information out. And then we've got some enhancements to the microsites that we got from some member feedback, as well as some reporting features. I spend probably a little bit more time on this new user registration process. If there is any action that's going to come out of this, it's likely going to be in that area, and you're going to see why here in a little bit. And then we've made some changes to Case Exchange, and this is primarily involved around the member web version of Case Exchange. Paul and I were actually talking a little bit earlier today. If you've got a mechanism to be able to accept inbound incidents via email, you really should go on Case Exchange. It'd be so much easier for you, and it's really easy to implement the member web portion of Case Exchange on that. So if you got questions about that, again, I'd suggest that you go ahead and reach out to us and talk about. So let me dig into it a little bit. This is one of the things that we got. Not so much that it came in as a member request, but something that we wanted to be able to push information out. And everybody gets so much email now. So what we did is we've got an announcement header. And this is something that TSANet admins can do. We can push up information to you about, oh, now the new fall release is out there. Or, hey, we've got a strategy day coming up in the Bay Area at this date and time. And if you want to register, come on in and do that kind of stuff. Surveys that we're going to do, things like that. We can actually control this and put messages out not only by the member category as far as specific members that we want to target, whether it's global premium or premium, basic, limited, whatever, but we can also differentiate it by caller type. So we can say we want only callers, or we want program managers and business managers, wherever we want to do that. And I think there's several different ways that we're going to find that we're going to use this will be a benefit to you. One of them that I could just think of that, other than what I've already mentioned, would be, you have a lot of turnover. You want to make sure that everybody in your support department is up to speed on TSANet, and we do these periodic TSANet intro calls. So you'll be able to, this is going to pop up. You can close it, but this is going to pop up on your screen, and it's just basically more information that we think would be useful for you, either for yourself or you want to disseminate within your support functions. And again, it's easy. You just click off the X and it won't show up anymore. So, but it's a new announcement header, and I think you're going to find it to be beneficial. The other one that we had, this is via member request, and a lot of you on this call are part of custom groups. And as you know, for nearly every custom group that you have, or you're participating in, or you're either the host of, one of the things that you have behind that is a microsite. And we added features also based on member feedback for knowledge exchange and training exchange and those kind of things that you wanted to have put into that microsite to benefit the members that were part of that custom group. One of the other things that we got back was, well, let's put RSS feeds in there. So we've included this. It's part of the setup of a microsite. or if you've already got one, we can go ahead and just give us a call and we can put it in there for you. But basically now you can take an RSS feed and put it into that microsite, and this keeps you obviously from updating things all the time and all that kind of stuff. You can just push that feed in. We think good example of this would be training classes that are coming up, or knowledge-based articles that you might have on an RSS feed. Instead of doing that, just give us that RSS feed. We'll work with you, get that up there, and you don't have to mess with it anymore. So that's something that's coming out in the next release, and we're hoping that you'll take advantage of that. Again, if you need us to set it up for us, just get a hold of ourselves here at TSANet. The other thing, and this is a little bit more strategic as we go down the road, and you're going to see this in this next new member registration thing. At a high level, let me just kind of explain to you what we're doing here. A lot of companies use the group login feature, and we think that's great. It's a good way for you not to have a bunch of administration behind setting up each individual user and things like that. As we get down the road, what we're finding is there's a little bit of a disconnect or a decoupling between TSANet and that caller. And we've done a pretty good job about keeping the administration piece, so the program and the business managers, but we want to target more of the callers. And in order for you to be able to manage that, we need to give you a better method of seeing who is logging into the system. And where we still can't give you a real good statistical analysis of what calls you're receiving or what calls you're placing unless you're using Case Exchange, because we don't know if that user, for example, is actually calling the number that's on the directory or they're actually placing an email. We don't know that. But what we can do is we can tell you who is logging in. And so we've got some of those new report features that will be coming out in this release that we think is going to help you manage your users and know who's using the system, or perhaps more importantly, know who's not using the system. So you're going to have these new reports available to you through the reports function when you log in, and you'll be able to go in. I think in 2016, one of the things we're probably looking at doing is perhaps enhancing these features even more, so that we can perhaps look at maybe getting away from the group login feature down the road. But we're not there yet, and we would not take that away. I think it would be too much of a problem right now, but we're slowly progressing towards that, and we want to give you a little bit more of the ability to look and see who's logging in and who's using the system. So this is something else that will be coming out in the next release that we think you'll find. And again, any of this stuff, right, is based off member feedback. So if you've got other things you'd like to see, we certainly would like to know it. This is probably the biggest change that you're going to see, and if there's any action that comes out of this, it's probably going to be this area right here. And this is the new user registration overview. The high level on this is that we think you're going to find this to be a very good benefit. Gives you the ability for any user within your company to be able to self-register into TSANet. Now, in putting this together, obvious things you got to put in place is stopgap measures to make sure that you don't want people in there that aren't supposed to be in there. And we've got some default things that we've already set up and put in there that you're going to see here in a minute. But basically, it does give the ability for any caller to come in, and when they get to the login screen on TSANet, it just says request account, and we got a slide that'll show you that, right? And then it goes through, and there's a couple of different workflows that we have here. The other thing that we did is there's a lot of configuration changes that we can make to customize it exactly to what you want it to say and what you want your user's experience to be when they go in to register for an account. And we basically categorize this into two areas. So a user comes into the login screen, right, other than a group login, right, but they come into the login screen, and then we'll configure this for you, but they'll come in and register for TSANet either via a manual method or via an automatic method. And there's several things that come into play here, and I know a lot of you are thinking, well, wait a minute, what about what groups they're going to see and what departments they're associated with and all that kind of stuff? All of that is configurable, and that's where it might be that we need to talk to you directly about how you want this to be set up within your company and also who you want to receive these things. But there's basically a manual method and an automatic method. Okay, and again, all this is configurable. So this is what it's going to look like when the end user comes in. You can see this request account down here. They'll be able to click on that, and then you're going to tell us whether you want this to be an automatic approval or whether you want it to be a manual approval. And again, we put those safeguards in effect. You'll see up here, number one, in this request account feature, if they're not part of, they have to select the company that they're part of. And if for whatever reason they're not part of a company, it's going to take them to the Join TSANet area, right, as a new company coming in. So, and there also are domain things that we'll talk about here in just a minute, but they'll have to request that from whatever company that they're already a member of in order for this to work. Okay, and then on the automatic method, right, which is not the default, you'll see that in a second here, what happens is it goes in, if they're not part of that company, then it'll actually do a domain check to make sure that they are part of that, and the user will receive and activate an email, and then the manager, which is also selectable and customizable as to who receives these emails, you're automatically notified that a company has signed up or that a new member individual has signed up into the web. On the manual side, again, this is going to be actually the default. What will happen is it'll come in and there will be, the user will request that. There will be an email that will go back out to that user that says that this member has requested individual credentials into TSANet, and then you'll actually receive an email that'll have that information in it. You'll click on a link, you log into TSANet, it'll take you to this automatic area. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. You'll be able to even customize that user even further, and then it will send an email back out and that user will be able to log into the system. If you want to reject them, simple process. No, you don't need to be using this. You can reject it. And again, there's a customizable email that will go back out to the user that will say, you know, you've not been selected to be part of this TSANet experience. So on the automatic side, right, they must put in, again, their work email address. We're going to go back and look at those domains. We can even configure multiple domains, although not likely that you would have that. But if that user is not part of that domain, then they're simply not going to get into the system. Right, the user will get an email and they're able to self-activate their account. And again, the business manager is notified of that. So that there's always those safeguards in place to make sure that we're not getting somebody into the system that you didn't want to have in there. Again, this is the automatic. If you want to select automatic, you can do that. The default is going to be the manual. And when the manual process comes in, again, you're going to get that email. And you notice up here what we've done is we've actually gone in and said these are the relationships that that new user is going to see. That is also customizable, and probably the biggest reason that you're going to want to talk to us to make sure that this is set up the way that you want it to be set up. But the process basically is that will come in as an email to those business managers that you want to be part of that approval process. They'll go ahead and click on that. It's going to take them in. They're going to see all the information. They're going to be able to customize it even more as to what that user experience will be as far as the email they'll get back, what they'll be able to see as far as the relationships, etc., that kind of thing. And then that goes back out to the user and they're automatically put into the system. Okay. So here are the defaults. And again, I'm recording this. Stephanie will send this slide deck out to you, so you've got that. We'll also post it up as a blog. But this basically goes into all these defaults that we've been talking about. So the manual process is going to be the default. So we've already gone in and selected who we think are the key individuals within this company that they're going to be either business or program managers, and they're going to be the ones to get this email. That in itself is also customizable. So again, if you want to have other people that are part of this process as far as the approval process, let us know and we can do that as well. But the manual process will be the one that will be defaulted to. We also took a really hard look and talked to a lot of members about, well, what relationships, if a user comes in self-registration, should they be part of? and we have defaulted to just the open groups because we know that there are groups in there that you don't necessarily want your users to see. That is also customizable so that you can go in, and in the manual process, not only can we say, oh no, we want all of the relationships regardless, we can set it up that way to where it happens, or as a manager you have the ability to go in and even say, oh no, I want this user to be part of this group and this group, but not this group and that group. So all that's done. The messages, all that verbiage that goes into the messages that the user sees, again, customizable, and these are the defaults that we put up there. Probably an important note for you guys to see is one of the things that we did is if the user experiences, they went in and they self-registered and you're out and weren't able to take care of it or whatever, then we've said as a default, look, get a hold of us here at TSANet and we'll help you out. So we have put that in there, and we probably need to consult with you a little bit. So if we do get that request in, what should we do? Or have a couple people within the company that we can get a hold of so that we know we can contact them. Okay, but again, all of this is all customizable, but we wanted to show you what the defaults were, because if you don't do anything, this is what's going to happen when we release this the first or the second week. And again, down at the bottom, we've got in here, right, contact TSANet to let us know what changes you would like to make to this process, if any, right, so that we make sure that we get the user experience right. Okay, so again, that was probably the biggest thing, and if there's going to be action, it's going to be in that self-registration process. And if you know, you want to get a hold of us, you know how to get a hold of us. This other area here has to do with case exchange, and I mentioned at the beginning of this, if you're accepting calls via email, you really should go ahead and just implement case exchange. We can get this done very quickly, and it would automate a lot of this to where that call would come in and an email will come in, and you'll be able to see more information about that customer. You still have to input it into your CRM system if you're not on a connector, but what we did was we got some feedback on those that are on Case Exchange now that are using the member web portion of this. So this is not related necessarily to the connector themselves like Salesforce and the others, but this is actually if you're using Case Exchange via the TSANet member web. And some things that we did, a lot of this is kind of cosmetic a little bit. There was just some areas that we wanted to do. I would say we kind of polished it up a little bit. There were some fields in there that maybe weren't necessarily obvious that they were read-only fields. There was a little bit of inconsistency in some of the field names that we put in. So we made some changes to that. Those are the changes that if you're on a Case Exchange, you're going to see that when it comes out. Again, a lot of usability stuff that we on here, that the login contact details would automatically be set as the originator on the form, a little bit improved formatting. If there's an error up there, it'll come up in red. It's a lot more obvious now. Oh, I didn't fill that out and I needed to have a customer name in there or something like that. So that pops up pretty, yeah, it's just, you can see it a lot better. It's a lot better experience. Okay, the other one that we did, and this is kind of a big deal, before when you would submit a call through Case Exchange and then the receiving company, what they got was an email that said, hey, a call has come in. Well, what we're doing now is we're actually providing all the detail about that call in the email itself, so that when the user experience, when that alias email comes in, they're going to get all this information. It's going to be all right there as a direct link in the email itself. All that detail is included in there. So I think, especially because in this experience, you're actually going to be putting that information back into the member web. A lot easier, cut and paste stuff. It's right there on the email to be able to put it in, and all that detail is included in there. Okay, so that was one of the things. This is a pretty big deal for those of you that aren't on connectors and are just on Case Exchange. This makes it a lot easier to get that information into your CRM system. And then here in the last slide, this has to do with cases being going outbound as well as inbound. And the one thing that we wanted to do as a strategy in all this is make sure that if there was a case initiated or a case received, that it was actually put into your CRM system. We didn't want it just hanging out there. So what happens in this feature now is that if you're initiating a case, you're going to have to put in your case ID number, so that there's that link between the case that's going through Case Exchange and your outbound side. On the receiving side, when you get that case, you're going to need to put in your case number when you get that. And again, back to that previous slide, you're going to get that email now that's got all that information in it, so that when you do get to this point, easy to go in there and put in the inbound side, so your incident number on the receiving side of this coming in. Okay, so a little bit more in here, right? The initiator custom fields, all this summary description, you can add files, all that kind of stuff. I think most of this is self-explanatory. Paul, is there anything in here other than what I've already said that we need to go ahead and mention to everybody?
No, actually you dropped out for a little bit before you went to the slide, but I think you covered most of the things. I think the intent of this slide is just to show you this is probably a good single page how to use thing that you could give to your support reps. So on one page it gives a pretty clear indication of how to use it, and probably the two big things in here that Dennis, I think you kind of covered, is the system now really enforces your agents to enter the case number, and that's important so that everybody knows how to look up the reference from your teams.
Okay, very good. And that's it. We've got 5 minutes, or actually we can stay on longer than that. If anybody has any Q&A, I'd ask you to go in and go ahead and ask a question. And let me see if I can get this to expand out for me. And I can go ahead and unmute you, or if you want to raise your hand, you can do that as well.
Yeah, maybe while we're waiting on some questions, and maybe it's just a few details for Go Live. So for Go Live, we will send an email out to all members, so you'll know when the thing's gone live. And then, as you saw, that new notification header, so you'll see that notification header indicating that the fall release is now live, and there'll be a link to a blog which will have this webinar recording, as well as these slides, as well as a link to the member help, which will be updated as well. So you should have everything you need for communicating to your teams.
Okay, and I don't have any questions from anybody, so I guess we covered it pretty well. Again, I want to go back in and emphasize that for this new registration process, to get a hold of us if you've got anything that you want to be customized within that, outside of the defaults that are already there. Okay, so again, we'll record this, get it out to you. Thanks very much for attending, and we appreciate it. Have a good one.